Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Whoa, little Brett Laughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And when I'm not doing TV shows, I'm a researcher. I research the human body at the cellular level. Chemically speaking, I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. I have a book coming out called Aging Sucks. I specialize in longevity and age-related diseases. And my premise for my book, Aging, is that every second of every day, every cell in our body is under attack from something. Our bodies have a built-in system to repair all those attacks. So when your repair capability exceeds your damage that's done on a daily basis, you're generally pretty healthy. However, when damage exceeds your repair capability, that's when you start seeing risk of disease escalate and accelerated aging. And that's my premise of my book, Aging Sucks, which comes out July 4th. It'll be available for pre-sales here very shortly. Let's get back to our guest today, Scott Woster. Scott is a counselor and author, and we will be talking to him very, very quickly. Scott, come on up here and join me.
Sounds good. Great to be here.
Hey, Senor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. And you?
Exceptionally well, as always.
Nice. Very nice.
You've been a counselor now for over 30 years. Is that right?
Yes, I have. I kind of joke. I wrote a book about some changes in my life that took place and the decision to become a counselor. And the big question, the reason I wrote the book is to answer the question, how did you become a counselor? And I say that with the emphasis on you. How did you become a counselor? Because people are kind of surprised, when you're young and silly, you make a lot of mistakes. Well, I learned from a lot of those mistakes and ended up as a counselor. And here I am with a 32-year career in one place at St. Joseph's Indian School in Chamberlain, South Dakota. So I'm in my office now, and off to my right here out the windows is the Missouri River and flowing by us here. And I've been a counselor here for that long with 7th through 12th grade boys.
So you had an interesting start on your journey to becoming a counselor. You want to share any of that with us?
I did, sure. Couldn't find the right fit when I was young, didn't have that direction. I grew up in the 80s and was a musician and wanted to actually own a music store and grow my hair and play guitar and all those kinds of fun things, which I did. I ended up managing to do all those things, but I went to the university here in South Dakota as a tuba major and had a tuba scholarship, a whopping $300, and went up there and found out that everything that I wanted from that was not really what I wanted. It turned into me singing the Sound of Music syllables in front of a classroom of people who really, really wanted to do that. And I paired that with having a wicked bout of social anxiety that plagued me for a good portion of my life. I'm here today with none. This is not a big deal for me, but 30 years ago, I couldn't have done this. I couldn't have come on your show and just talk to you in this way before an audience. It would have been difficult for me. So I would say that when I was looking for majors at that age, I think I ended up by throwing a dart at the list of majors from the university and ended up in counseling. And maybe it chose me, but that's what I've done for my entire life. So it worked out great. But I plan to be a rock star.
Now, South Dakota, is it South Dakota State that has a football team that's of note?
Yeah, so South Dakota State is where I was for those couple of years, and it's the Jackrabbits. So they've had a lot of success here lately. I've been to South Dakota State for 2 years, transferred to USD for 2 years, and then did my graduate school up at North Dakota State, which also has a great football team. But the Jackrabbits have come on in the last couple of years to challenge the Bison and kind of show them who's who. So yeah.
A little bit of a trivia thing, but I was in my college was in Division II, and
Yep.
of course this was many decades ago.
Yeah.
And, it's not uncommon to recognize other ones that way back when were also in the same.
Yeah, and they're, of course, they're Division I now. South Dakota State is, but they were Division II back then, and it was a big deal. That's been a few years ago as well.
Okay, so you went to school, you became a counselor, but you specialize in Native American education.
Yep, I did. And I grew up just up the river from here in the capital city of Pierre. And in my upbringing, I'm in a state with a very proud history of the Native people. You've got the Lakota people here, the Dakota, the Nakota, and you've got legends here, and in Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, Red Cloud, some of the big names, the last resistors, back in the late 1800s. And this entire state, the land is just permeated with that history. But when I was a kid, I never had any of it. I never did. There were no classes in school. When I went to college, I wasn't learning anything about the culture and history of the people that originated from here. I didn't get any of that. And so when I came back here to Chamberlain after living in Texas, Austin, Texas for a little while, I came back here to be a counselor. I was getting into a culture that I didn't know, didn't understand, wasn't prepared for, and wasn't expecting to impact me in the way it did. At 25, I was simply looking for a job. And so for the past 32 years, the changes were slow while they were happening, but I got immersed in the culture. And I'm of Irish and Bohemian descent, some German, and eventually ended up marrying a Lakota woman from the Rosebud Reservation here, and now have 3 stepdaughters, a daughter they're all Lakota. They're Native American, 7 grandchildren who are Native American. And South Dakota is a small state. We're about 750,000 people. And we have 200 kids here at the school where I work, and you get to know all of them. We're intimate enough to where you know everybody. And there's no way that culture can't impact you in some way. So being here this long, you get impacted, and so many people from so many tribes around the state have become my friends and really rubbed off on my life. And I, so much so that I wrote a book about it and how those changes came to be. And I got immersed into the culture in ways that I never would have expected to. So that's what that's the journey that I've been on.
Well, let me congratulate 7 grandkids. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Any great grandkids on the way?
We're not there yet. Yeah. We're between 7 years old all the way down to 2. So
oh, wow. Early.
We're a ways out. Yeah.
We just had our first great grandson a couple of years ago, and so we just, in fact, last weekend we went and visited him for the whole weekend. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a life changer. There's no doubt about it.
No, you're absolutely right. No doubt about it. How close do they live to you?
Right now we have two of them living in our house. I'm helping a son-in-law build a house next door to mine, and it's taken us a while. So their family, to save up some money, is living next door to us. They're early 30s, and it's just tough to get a start right now, and to get loans and to make ends meet and all that kind of stuff. So we're all living together. So my youngest daughter is going to South Dakota State here in the fall, and she's going into psychology. She's going to follow the old man into that. And then, but the two grandkids live with us. And so we see them every day, which is a joy that everybody should have.
Have you done house building before?
No, never.
Oh, so you pull up a YouTube. Okay, that's what I got to do. Thank you very much. And
there you go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Have you learned any of the Indian languages there?
So the languages, the songs, the ceremonies, all of that, I was slow to pick that up. I've been around the language a little bit and the culture. Even when I got in there, in 1994, I guess it was, there were sweat lodges that were happening here on campus. And I was afraid that I'd have a panic attack if I went in. I'd get claustrophobic with the social anxiety and just anxiety in general. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. The language did not come easily for me. It just never made sense. And about 10 years in, there were some breakthroughs, and it's a story, and I'll try to abridge it. It's longer in the book, of course, but this is sort of the crux of the story is my wife, who, like I said, is Rosebud Lakota. She teaches the culture here. So she is teaching language and culture to the kids here. Her name's Lorraine. And growing up, Lorraine never learned the culture at home. She never learned it in school. And that's because her mom or her grandmother and her great grandmother had it forcibly taken away. They could not speak their own language. They couldn't learn their own culture. So Lorraine's mom did not teach it in the home because it didn't serve Lorraine in any way to learn that culture. So Lorraine grew up without learning any of it, came to it when she was about 30, went in a sweat lodge, changed her life, and through that ceremony kind of found that this was her calling. This is what she wanted to do. And for the last 20 years, she has guided the cultural program here at the school, trying to give the kids what she didn't get when she was a kid. Now, that's the basis for the first book I wrote, which is a book about her family generationally and how that was taken from the family and how she's getting that back and trying to pass it on to the next generations. The way I fit into that is that Lorraine and I had our daughter, Sage. She ended up having type 1 diabetes, and that is Lorraine's third kid with type 1 diabetes. She had two through her previous marriage. Her husband died young from a brain tumor. So we've got three kids who have type 1 diabetes, and we went to a Sundance here in South Dakota, which is the granddaddy of all of the Lakota religious ceremonies. And there at the ceremony, there were people of the Lakota spirituality traditions who said, there are still ceremonies around for healing where you can help your daughter. And of course, as a white man, I couldn't find my place in that. It just didn't make sense to me. There was no calling to do that other than love for my child who was suffering with pokes and prods and those kinds of things from diabetes and suffering from something that if you don't do things right as a parent with a 16-month-old, you're going to lose your kid pretty fast. So when she was about 4, a series of events happened that pulled us into that world of having a ceremony for her, and it pulled us in, my wife and I, into the ceremony of dancing and being a part of those traditions. You couldn't have there's no way you could predict that any of this would happen. I still kind of am gobsmacked by the whole thing, but I had to crash course to come circle around to your question. I had to circle back around to learning that that culture and the songs and piece some of that together enough to where I'm passable. The songs, especially, you have to sing them in ceremony, and if you don't, you're you don't quite fit in the way you should. So I learned them, but I did it through a very Eurocentric way. I learned it the way I've always learned, which is reading and studying and picking it up that way, the same way we would have in college, where that stuff is not passed down in that way through the traditions. You learn it almost, I've watched people do it. It's seemingly osmosis to learn the language and the culture of the songs, everything.
One of the guys I follow, used to follow a lot more than I do now, Dr. Walter with a V as in Victor, Long, Longo. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
He has a program out, I think University of Southern California, I believe, I'm not positive.
Yep.
He's worked a lot with insulin, and particularly, I started a 72-hour diet fast years ago. I do it every month.
Yep.
But with him, he says a 5-day fast, 120 hours, actually has the ability to reset pancreas cells, beta cells in your pancreas.
Yep.
They've had a lot of success on curing type 1 diabetes in animals. And that I'm not sure where the human tests have been going with that.
Right.
But he uses, because a lot of people can't fast for 5 days. They have a term called fasting mimicking diets, where you can actually eat something, but your body doesn't believe you're actually eating food. And so you're allowed to take that extended, 120 hours into a fast. Might be something just to look at.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have a personal interest in that. And it might be something there, may not be something there, but it's something I'm aware of, and I'm just passing it on because that's what I do.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate that. And I am, and I heard your tag. I learned a little bit about you as we led into the show about your interest in, I don't even know how I would express it. It's deep and understanding health and wellness with the body. And I'm a faster. I do a lot of that kind of stuff on my own. In fact, and have done keto, have done vegan, have tried a lot of different things out, but do incorporate fasts. A part of the book that I wrote on myself, about myself, the second book, and about my journey, has to do with a guy who was diagnosed at Mayo Clinic with chronic fatigue syndrome. And at the time, it was in 1995. It was a sudden illness, and the social anxiety was there at that time too. So these things are all mixed up. There wasn't a doctor that could pinpoint what was happening with me. Mayo Clinic certainly couldn't. They ran me through every test they could imagine, and told me to run across the street to Barnes and Noble and pick up a couple books on what they called chronic fatigue immune dysfunction syndrome. So I studied a lot of things, tried a lot of the research things early on, and about 10 years in of just struggling in a way that I couldn't understand, found healing. And I'm not sure exactly even today what I could pinpoint caused the healing. I tell my wife it was love. I met her around that time, and that earns me points, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. But there's so much mystery, and so I heard that's what you've made a lot of your life study, and to hear you talk about fasting and cleansing and that sort of thing it excites me a lot. That's another topic that I could talk about forever too.
Yeah. Love cures a lot of things.
Yeah, it certainly does. That's been a huge part of my journey. I can't deny that.
Yeah. The fast basically resets your immune system after about 72 hours. Process is called autophagy in our bodies, where they self-clean. There's a lot to be said, but we're going to concentrate on you today, and whatever notes that you want to take and go look up, or contact me directly afterwards. Yeah. I have no problem continuing our conversation down the road.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, it fit really well into my life story though, because I spent a lot of that time suffering alone, and I think I made the note in the front of my book that I don't like what they were calling chronic fatigue, if that's even what it is, was, but it's been probably in the end one of my greatest teachers.
We're at that point in time where we need to take a commercial break. We'll be back in about
Sure.
a minute and a half at most. And when we come back, I'd like to go down the topic of sweat lodges, and then I want to
Okay.
get into your 2 books.
Yeah, great.
How much of your value have you been giving away? Saying yes when the answer should have been no? Lowering your price to secure the opportunity? Giving more while receiving less? Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Wargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
Howdy, y'all. Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And I failed to mention earlier that if you're watching the show today on YouTube and you're not a subscriber to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio, please subscribe. We really, truly appreciate that. Scott, please join me back up here and let's continue our conversation. And we'll go talk first about the sweat lodges, and then I'd like to get into your books.
Absolutely. So there are basically 7 sacred ceremonies of the Lakota people, or the Lakota people, the Native American people who are from around here. And the sweat lodge is one of those. Inipi is the name of it. And we have always had a lodge here on campus where I am, there for about 200 kids. And you have to understand that the Inipi ceremony is such an integral part of their way of life and the spiritual way of life of these people. And it was outlawed from, before the turn of the century, 20th century, that is, until 1978. And I think it was the Freedom of Religion Act or something like that was passed. And I might be wrong on the exact name of it. But so at the school where I work, we've been in play for 100 years. In fact, next year, in 2027, we were founded in 1927. And they, of course, weren't practicing teaching the culture, the traditions, having sweat lodges, any of those kinds of things. And about mid 70s, they started having sweat lodges here on campus. And it's just a beautiful site for the lodge, just maybe a quarter mile up the river from where I sit right now. And as I said, I was scared to death to go in there, enclosed space. It's in the past, it would have been willow branches that were covered with buffalo hides. And you go in and you close the door, you bring in hot stones, you pour water on them, and you pray and you sing, and it gets very intense. They call in the spirits to bring health and healing for people who are having a tough time in the world. And I always tell the boys that I go in with, I go in often with the young men that go to school here, the 7th through 12th grade boys. And spoiler alert, I did go in my first lodge 20 years ago. And I think part of it was to impress my wife, to show her that I could do it, that I was brave enough to go in, and did go in, and it resonated with me, certainly. And so now I'm the guy that leads them since I've gone through ceremonies again. And I've said that I wasn't called to it. This isn't something I was looking for. One thing led to another. There's a concept or an actual phrase in the Lakota culture and language that is ikche wichasha. Wichasha is man, and ikche basically means common. It's common man or humble man. You're not called to anything. You're not leading. You're nobody special. You're just a simple human being. You're nobody special. And if you think you are, you're on the wrong path. They call it the Chanku Luta, and that's the red road. And so I always tell the boys, stay on the red road. You're going to make mistakes. You'll fall from side to side on that red road. You'll get back on the Chanku Luta. But as soon as you forget that you're a ikche wichasha or a humble man, then problems start to happen. So anyway, I lead those ceremonies with the kids out there. And so you're praying, you're singing songs, and you come out renewed. In fact, I'm in my counseling office, and I had one of my students yesterday. We're getting ready to go in to the lodge here next week with our 7th graders as they prepare to go on a living classroom trip through Wyoming, Montana, and South Dakota to sacred sites to their people. And we lead that trip off with a sweat ceremony or an ipi ceremony. And I was talking to the student, and he said that one of his buddies said, I don't want to go in there. It's too hot, and it just doesn't make any sense. And this kid was telling me how he defended it and said, you go in there and you feel reborn. This is where you get your rebirth. It's a cleansing, and you come out brand new, spiritually refreshed and spiritually new. So that right there says it better than I probably ever could. You've got a kid who's eager to go in there and understands well that this tradition of his people has been going on forever. It's a spiritual renewal.
Okay, 2 quick questions. How long do you stay in there, and how many times are you allowed to go in there?
Those are great questions. So there are you stay in typically about 2 hours, and there's 4 doors, each lasting 15 to 20 minutes. The number 4 is sacred to the Lakota. So you've got your 4 directions, and you know, nature has your 4 seasons, and there's more and more that I could add to that. But you have 4 doors. So you're in for a round of 4 songs. You open the door, let a little fresh air in, get your rejuvenation before you close it up and go back in and pour more water on the rocks, create steam. And the idea is that you stay in that often. And I told a couple of the elders, the traditional elders that I went to ceremonies with early on, I had of course a naivety about it, because you don't know until you know. And I would say, well, how often can you do this? Is it possible to do it at a time where you're not scheduling it? And they laughed at me and just said, you can go in at any time of the day, the night. You can go in every day if you want. You can go in once a week, once a month. It just depends on how badly you need it. And you'll hear people say all the time, boy, I could really use a good sweat. I need to get in the lodge. I need to really get renewed and do that prayer, that prayerful piece. And here we are we're a Catholic school, St. Joseph's Indian School, but we're also really pushing the culture hard. So you've got that mix of it. You might hear somebody who's, has their faith in the church say, I really need to get to church. I need to take this to the altar or whatever. It would be kind of seen in the same way. And so that you can go in as often as you want. And I found that I have been through ceremonies, through Sundance, and through everything we've done. I've been in the lodge at 3 a.m. I've been in there at 6 a.m. I've been in there at noon, and it's all just part of the ceremonies. And it goes back to, that's how they lived. I mean, you don't live separate from those ceremonies. Well, when they're outlawed, all of a sudden you've become separate from what gives you your spiritual wholeness, and that's taken away. And so, we're so glad to be able to offer that to the kids here now.
It's interesting because you talked about rebirth. When you go in hot area, usually 160 or above, for a period of time, 20, 30 minutes, your body makes what's called heat shock proteins, which basically fights inflammation and actually almost gives you a rebirth. So
Yeah.
whether you know it or not, your body's actually responding the way it's supposed to, physiologically, that
Yeah.
most of us have no idea why it works. But, we go to the sauna, we go to this or that. And it's interesting when you really start diving deep into it.
Yeah. Yep. And you said it. I mean, they didn't know why that was happening, but they knew it was happening. I'll guarantee you that. And I love it. And you understand the research behind that. And I can follow that. I don't know the research, but I understand what you're saying and believe it 100%. But it's funny. And again, onto the health side, I just bought a sauna and sit in my bathroom. It's $100 sauna that works fantastic, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to get the benefits from that.
Going
Anyway,
into the sweat lodge, is there any special clothing you wear?
yeah. So you just wear, guys just wear a pair of shorts. That's it. You take your towel in, you make sure you're hydrated, and you crawl in. It's I suppose that's part of being that ikchewi chasha part. You're stripped down and you go in that way. Women. My wife leads the women in sweats. We don't do mixed sweats. We were just told by the elders that that's not the way that you're supposed to do it. Men and women, there's temptations for impure thoughts or whatever. And I don't make the rules. That's one thing I'm certain of, is that I listen to the elders when it comes to the traditions. I'm not telling anybody what or how to do, but the women would wear beautiful ribbon skirts in there and a t-shirt, and so that's typically what they would wear.
We haven't talked about your books yet. We've talked around them, but let's talk before we get too far down to the program, because I do want to ask you about your podcast. If we have time there at the end of the show.
Excellent.
Let's talk about your books real quickly.
Okay.
Tell us what they are and what they're about.
Let me give you a framework for Brave Girl. The first book that I wrote, I've been obviously playing in a band. I think I hinted at that earlier. And my whole life, I've written songs, but I've never written a book. My dad is a well-known journalist and columnist in the state of South Dakota. He did that his entire life. His brother did the same, and his other brother is a columnist too. My aunt was a English professor at South Dakota State, has written 2 books, and my sister was for a long time the director of the Center for the Book here in South Dakota, and was involved with Humanities Council, and was basically born with a book in her hand. That brings her more joy than anything. And I was too, but I never had the idea to be the writer. Well, my wife's story, I always thought, was so compelling. It followed the trajectory of the culture of the Lakota people here in South Dakota. Hers did the same, hers mirrored that, and it had all the trials and tribulations that anybody's life probably has. But I found it really compelling, and I thought it would kind of tell itself or write itself. So I asked all the writers in the family if they'd be willing to do that, so that she could have that book out there as a platform for her. She's a great teacher, does such a great job, and there's such a thirst for knowledge about that culture. I thought if she could, tour the world, I could ride my mountain bike in exotic locales, and she could support us in that way. Well, I couldn't get anybody to write the book. They turned me down. All my family members said that they weren't going to do it. And so finally, Lorraine said to me, "This is your book to write. You have to do it." So I did, and I found the writing was so much fun that we put the book out, and that's how number 1 went down. But it is really a story about that young Lakota. Her great grandma the last name was Brave Boy, Nellie Brave Boy. And it was about how Nellie never got to learn her culture and never got to teach it. And so you've got this generation of kids who weren't exposed to it. And it's about how my wife, became the Brave Girl is the title of it. And she has become kind of that force for making sure that the young kids understand it. So that's book number 1.
Okay, we're wrapping up here on time. If
Yep.
you could quickly go through book number 2,
Yep.
and if we have a chance to talk about the podcast, we do. If we don't, we don't.
Okay, I would love that.
Later.
Book number 2 is just a collection of stories from my life. Part of it is the storytelling is so important in Lakota culture, has been in my life. I like to spin a good yarn, and my story of my life is about the learning of, how do you go from being a 18-year-old good kid, good person, but sort of a ne'er-do-well. You're making choices based on your the social crowd you're running around with, and how does your life turn out looking the way it does. I just found that to be an interesting journey to tell. That's what that book is about. And I'll pivot to my podcast, which is 9 seasons in. I'm wearing the shirt actually for it today because I'm going to go interview some kids for it in a little bit. It's Hochoka, which means in the Lakota culture, it would have been the center of camp. And actually, the podcast is based out of the back of the church, in the sacristy in the back. We've got a studio set up there, and we interview Catholic scholars, Lakota scholars, authors. The lady who was who was in charge of it asked me if I wanted to maybe host one episode of it, and I said sure. I'll do anything once, and here we are, 150 episodes into it. It's easy to find. If you remember the Hochoka, it's got some diacritics over it, but I think the word stands out there. Or SJISkids.com is where you can find that if anybody's interested. If you're at all want to learn more about Lakota culture, I've had some really good guests on the show that have taught me a lot, and I think they teach a broader audience a lot too.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to sign up for your podcast, do they contact you directly?
Yeah, they could do that, and I'm very easy to find. It's simply my name is my website, scottwoster.com. There's links how to get a hold of me pretty easily there. Email me, and I love to talk to anybody. It's my passion, so this is fun stuff to talk about.
Okay, for our audio audience, we'll be picking up this broadcast later on today. Scott, SCOTT, Woster, WOSTER.com, scottwoster.com. Scott, so they can go to your website, they can find your books, they can get in touch with you there. Is that right?
Yep, exactly. Yep, I'm pretty easy to find.
And you're on social media on a bunch of different platforms?
I've got Facebook and Instagram. You can find me there.
Well, here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, we have a program called The Corner Bookstore that we talk to authors about their journey writing and that whole thing. So I would love to have you consider being a guest on that show down the road.
I would love to.
And with that, I'm going to wish you the best and have a wonderful time in your podcast later on today, and we will catch you down the road.
Thank you. Great to meet you, Red.
Likewise, and have a wonderful day. We've got a short while here just to wrap things up. Just finished with the Wise Ones. The next show is called Talking Heads. It'll be in about 22 minutes. And today my topic is, my topic is about credibility and authority. And if I can find my title. Here's my title. Why do some people become trusted agents and others don't? And I'm going to be talking about how do you build credibility? How do you build authority? How do you build trust? But also along with that parallel path is it takes a long time to become credible, but overnight it can be destroyed. And sometimes we don't realize that. And that's one of the topics I want to talk about. Typically, I talk about health and wellness, but I've been writing a book now for the last 10 or 11 days. I finished up and literally done with the book first draft. And I just kind of get my mind away from that for a short while. So I figure, why not do something different today? I love to write. I love to talk. I love to help people with their books. So let's talk about credibility, and primarily through an author's eyes. There's a lot of different ways of going, but I think when you have an author establishing credibility, that's a very, very good way to do it. I am now going to leave you until next week. And if you can join me here very shortly, great. If not, YouTube, we're available on USA Global TV and Radio Network. So you all take care, and we'll catch you later on. Bye now.
Hey, you. Psst. Yes, you. Watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.